There is an incredible interest in this.
I could have told you that. I mean,
I wish you had.
this is what I'm saying. Once I knew you were kind of like, you don't realize, like, you could call me. I can help you. This is the world I live in. No, as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is going to break. I mean, Bethenny was so smart. I've done 3-part interviews. I've started that years ago. And I'm like, yes, break this down, Bethenny, go slow. It's a business, right? So no, I mean, that I understand. With the revenge porn, I'm just curious because there's so much chatter about this. So Raquel, just hypothetically, not having anything to do with you, her ex, Tom Sandoval, films her without her consent. Can he be liable to the person that films it? And then Ariana allegedly sent this out. Can you be liable? So can each person be liable? Tom for filming it, Ariana for sending it out. And if you just send it to yourself, if Ariana just sent it to her own phone, can she still be liable?
Let me say this. You said, did you say hypothetically? Because
hypothetically,
you
yes.
went from hypothetical to specifics very quickly in the span of 15 seconds. So I'm going to take you back to hypothetical. Depending on what jurisdiction you're in, and this is not, I'm not giving any legal advice or betraying any confidence, but if you're a 1-party or 2-party, or depending on what the revenge porn laws are, the filming without consent, depending on the jurisdiction, can be one act that violates the law. The distribution can be just sending it, is another act, which could be another violation of the law. So the answer to your question is hypothetically, yes, but all of those examples I just gave, not the ones you gave, because that would be pinned to specifics, but the ones I give, where if you film somebody and then distribute it, both the act of filming and the distribution, depending on your jurisdiction, depending on the facts, can be multiple violations.
And in California, that jurisdiction includes those two things.
California's got a pretty robust interpretation of this, yes.
And then hypothetically, we won't mention any names. We'll go under your scenario. If you are a woman and you send, or a man, but in this, whatever it is, if you send it just to yourself, is that considered distribution? If you send it from someone's phone to your phone?
That's a more nuanced position. That might give you, or a hook for somebody to still hold you liable or accountable if you were sending it to yourself and it's non-consensual. I can see where that could be another violation as well.
And then if you just hypothetically send it out to, say, 3 people, we don't need to mention any names like Lala or Sheena or Tom Schwartz. We don't need to mention this. This is very hypothetical. But if you send it out and then those people send it on, does it keep going down the line if you got it from someone else?
Arguably, there's liability at every stage.
Wow. And then is there a liability to a network if a network takes a scene where it's mentioned and buries it? Is it, you knew about maybe this and you just edit it out, and, if you kind of edit something?
Well, the part that obviously we're investigating is, was there knowledge, and was the enforcement of illegal, I'm calling illegal meaning against the law. I'm not accusing of a crime necessarily, although there potentially could be that in certain situations, but against the law meaning there is a prohibition in the statute against dissemination or against these predatory NDAs. If you have buried a scene and you're using the fact that you have it to enforce an NDA that is illegal because it violates the statute, there's potentially liability there as well.
If there's going to be a lawsuit, what I think a lot of people are confused. I'm even somewhat confused, but I mean, I'm a lawyer and I guess less, but still confused because I'm not a real lawyer like you. But what is the goal? If there's a lawsuit, what is the goal? Because we're talking there's residuals, we're talking about, money, and then we're talking about unfair conditions. What is really the goal of a lawsuit? Is it financial? Is it?
Well, I think for Bethenny, and I don't want to ever speak for her because God knows she can articulate her position wonderfully, but one of the things I've gleaned is, and one of the first things we did, and one of the reasons that we got SAG-AFTRA involved, and the SAG's been very supportive, is I think there needs to be fundamental structural change. They need to, the reality space needs to join in and needs to be part of the party, not and I don't mean to denigrate red-haired orphans, but that I'm using the expression, maybe it's not politically correct, but to be the red-haired orphan stepchild, meaning that it's something that is very popular, very lucrative, but for some reason they don't get the same kind of protections that scripted may be. And I use scripted loosely because one of the things I've already come to find is many of these so-called unscripted situations are about as programmed and scripted as you would ever want to see. So it's really, from a network perspective, having your cake and eating it too, from their standpoint. They get to kind of literally ply these people with alcohol, deprive them of food, not give them the same protections that scripted people get or that unions get, and at the same time profit mightily from it.
If it is unionized, I mean, will that like change the face of reality TV? Like what, all this stuff will just...
I think clearly. I mean, I can tell you that many of the things that are happening and our standard operating procedure now, SAG would never let happen. I mean, they'd be there, they'd be calling to account. It would violate collective agreements, labor agreements, and things of that nature. It just wouldn't happen.
Right. Like if you have Jennifer Aniston and Julia Roberts filming a rom-com together and you say, here's vodka and you need to drink this vodka at 9 a.m., that would never happen.
Yeah, and we're not going to let you eat, really. And we're going to film you and at your worst, and we're going to, there's allegations here that seem to be supportive. We're in the investigative phase, but that there was a concerted effort to exploit people who were weak and had mental health issues. Well, you can't do that take it out of a filming situation. I have seen over the course of many years, there have been criminal prosecutions, and you've probably seen them anecdotally, of ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends trying to get somebody to commit suicide. I mean, you've seen these kinds of, you see them periodically. There was one here in Van Nuys many years ago. And recently, I think I commented on another one that was out of state, not in California. But that's criminal. In a civil context, which is a lower burden of proof, those kinds of activities have intentional infliction of emotional distress. You've heard that. Negligent infliction of emotional distress. There are consequences to trying to cause somebody emotional and mental health distress.